good afternoon, DPM Mr. Heng Swee Kiet, Dr. Jane Goodall, Dr. Sylvia Earle, CDL Board and CDL Management, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Hope and Harmony, presented by City Developments Limited in support of Jane Goodall Institute Singapore and Ocean Geographic Blue Earth Environment. I'm Annette Lee, Ministry of Sustainability and Environment, Go Green SG Ambassador, and I will be your MC for today. So we have prepared a very exciting program for you today, kicking off with a children's performance by winners of CDL's We Love Our Planet storytelling competition winners, who will be sharing their worries and hopes about our future planet. So this will be followed by a short message from CDL Group's CEO, Mr. Sherman Quek. And Dr. Jane Goodall and Dr. Sylvia Earle will also then take the stage and reflect on their over 6-decade-long journeys in the fight to protect our planet. After that, for the first time in Singapore, they will also take the stage to engage in a dialogue, which we are all really looking forward to. I am very looking forward to that. So now, without further ado, can we please give a warm welcome to 7-year-old Zach and Pragnya and Hong Liang, who are both 11 years old. They are winners of CDL's We Love Our Planet storytelling contest. They will tell us a story adapted from Dr. Seuss's The Lorax, a children's book that warns of the danger of greed causing environmental destruction, encourages activism, and gives a voice to those who have none. So take it away, kids. Let's welcome them on stage.
And these are my friends, Zach and Hong Liang. We are all here today for the same reason. We are worried about the future of our planet. Did you know that biodiversity is declining faster than at any time in human history? The average native species have fallen by at least 20% since the 1900s. And since 1990, 420 million hectares of forest have been lost as a result of human activity. Today, we will be telling you a story adapted from Dr. Seuss' The Lorax. In this story, Hong Liang will be the Lorax, the protector of trees and animals. Zach will be portraying someone called the Onceler, a greedy businessman who only saw the monetary value in nature. He will be recounting the story from a long time ago, when he first saw the truffula trees and went on a chopping spree. The end results? Well, you will see.
Way back in the days when the grass was still green, and the pond was still wet, and the clouds were still clean, and the song of the Swami swans rang out in space, one morning I came to this glorious place. And I first saw the trees, the truffula trees, the bright cups of the truffula trees, mile after mile in the fresh morning breeze. And under the trees I saw brown barbeloots as they played in the shade and ate truffula fruits. From the ripless pond came the comfortable sound of the humming fish humming while splashing around. But those trees, those truffula trees, all my life, I've been searching for trees such as these. The touch of the tufts was much softer than silk.
He felt a great leaping of joy in his heart. He knew what he'd do. He unloaded his cart. And in no time at all, he had built a small shop. And he chopped down a truffula tree with one chop. And with great skillful skill and great speedy speed, he took the soft tufts and he knitted it neat.
The instant I'd finished, I heard it go zoom. I looked. I saw something pop out of the stump of the tree I chopped down. It was sort of a man.
Mister, I am the Lorax. I speak for the trees, for they have no tongues. And I'm asking you, sir, what's that thing you've made of my truffula tuft?
Look, Lorax, there's no cause for alarm. I chopped just one tree. I am doing no harm. I'm being quite useful. This thing is a need. It needs to find something that all people need. It's a shirt, it's a sock, it's a glove, it's a hat. But hats are the useless, yes, far beyond that.
Sir, you are crazy of greed. There's no one on earth who would buy that fool's need. But the very next minute, he proved he was wrong. For just that minute, a chap came along and he thought that the need he needed was great. He happily bought it for $3.98.
Lorax, you poor stupid guy. You never can tell what some people will buy.
I repeat, I speak for the trees.
I'm busy. Shut up if you please. I put in a quick call. I called all my brothers, uncles, and aunts and said, listen here. Here's a wonderful chance for the whole Wansler family to get mighty rich. Get over here fast.
And in no time at all, in the factory he built, the whole Wansler family was working full tilt. They were knitting needs as busy as bees to the sound of the chopping of the truffula trees.
Then, oh baby, oh, how my business did grow. Now chopping one tree at a time was too slow. So I quickly invented my super axe hacker, which whacked our 4 truffula trees at one smacker. We were making needs 4 times as fast as before. And that Lorax, he didn't show up anymore. But the next week, he knocked on my new office door.
I'm the Lorax who speaks for the trees, which you seem to be chopping as fast as you please. But I'm also in charge of the brown barbaloots, who happily lived eating truffula fruit. Now, thanks to your hacking of my trees to the ground, there's not enough truffula fruit to go around. And my poor barbaloots, they love living here, but I can't let them stay. They'll have to find food, and I hope that they may. So I send them away.
I meant no harm. I most truly did not. But I had to go bigger, so bigger I got. And I biggered my money, which everyone needs. Then again he came back.
Wansler, you're making such smogulous smoke. My poor swarmy swans, why, they can't sing a note. And so they cannot live here. So I'm sending them off to escape from the smog you smogged up around here. Let me also say a few words about Gluppity Glup. You dirty old Wansler man, you. Your machinery chugs on day and night without stop, making Gluppity Glup. You're glumping the pond where the humming fish hum. No more can they hum, for their gills are all gummed. So I'm sending them off. Oh, their future is dreary. They'll get woefully weary in search of some water that isn't so smeary.
Now listen here. All you do is yap, yap, and say bad, 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 bad. Well, I have my rights, sir, and I'm telling you, I intend to go on doing just what I do, turning more truffula trees into needs, which everyone needs.
But at that very moment, they heard a loud whack. From outside the fields came a sickening smack of an axe on a tree. Then they heard the tree fall. The very last truffula tree of them all. No more trees. No more needs. No more work to be done.
So my uncles and aunts, everyone, waved me goodbye. They jumped into my cars and drove away. Now all that was left beneath the bad-smelling sky was my big empty factory, the Lorax, and I.
I didn't say anything. I just gave him a very sad, backward glance and took leave of this place through a hole in the smog without leaving a trace. And all that I left here in this mess was a small pile of rocks with one word: unless.
Whatever that meant, well, I just couldn't guess. That was long, long ago. Each day since that day I sat here and worried away. But now that you're here, the word of the Lord seems perfectly clear. Unless someone like you tells a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. So, catch!
He let something fall. It's a trufula seed, the last one of all. You're in charge of the last trufula seed. And trufula trees are what everyone needs. Plant a new trufula. Treat it with care. Give it clean water and feed it fresh air. Grow a forest. Protect it from axes that hack. Then the Lorax and all of his friends may come back.
What has this story taught us? The Lorax story is a warning that we need to protect all the living things in our environment. What lives and grows on land and what lives and grows below water.
The story's moral is to recognize the impact of our actions, to respect nature and to fight against its destruction. Let's be the voice of those who can't speak for themselves, the trees, the animals, the earth.
So remember, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. Let us be the change we want to see in the world and inspire others to join us on this vital mission. The time to act is now.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Zach, Pragnya, and Hong Liang. You may take your leave. Wow, what an amazing storytelling presentation, guys. I hope you're all feeling inspired by their story, and we'll all start thinking about how we can better conserve the planet and resources for our future generations. That was so much fun. They had props and everything. The trees, oh no, they're leaving. Okay, so a very sustainable future will require active public, private, and people sector collaboration across the world. So today, this historical event is made possible by the generous support of CDL. So right now, let's hear from CDL's Group CEO, Mr. Sherman Kwek, on why and how the private sector can play a key role to tackle the climate emergency. Unfortunately, he's not able to be with us in person today, so we're going to be listening to a pre-recorded message.
Dr. Jane Goodall, Dr. Sylvia Earle, Excellencies, partners, distinguished guests, and colleagues, a very good afternoon to everyone. My apologies for not being able to join you in person due to an overseas business commitment. On behalf of the CDL Board and Management, thank you for attending this momentous event. This is the first time Dr. Goodall and Dr. Earle are sharing the stage together in Singapore, and what a fantastic treat for us. Jane and Sylvia, thank you for your tireless efforts in pushing for nature preservation and environmental conservation, which have raised global awareness and inspired many people. CDL is honored to host today's event to celebrate your incredible journeys for over 60 years and your dedication to protecting life on land and in the ocean. Our planet faces unprecedented environmental challenges, from climate change and biodiversity loss to ocean pollution and natural resource depletion. More than ever, we must find ways to live in harmony with nature, embracing the deep connections between our ocean, land, and humanity. Everything and everyone are interconnected in the circle of life. Singapore's commitment to sustainability is exemplified by the Singapore Green Plan 2030, which outlines an ambitious roadmap based on 5 key pillars comprising city and nature, sustainable living, energy reset, green economy, and resilient future. In particular, the city and nature pillar aims to restore nature in urban environments, aligning with Dr. Goodall and Dr. Earle's message on fostering harmony between humanity and nature. Dr. Goodall's pioneering research on chimpanzees since 1960 has transformed our understanding of the natural world, and Dr. Earle's mission to preserve the ocean has influenced scientific research and reshaped global perspectives on marine conservation. At CDL, we understand the vital connection between the planet and its inhabitants. Within the building and construction sector, it's responsible for nearly 40% of global carbon emissions, and we aim to drive meaningful change. CDL's first encounter with Dr. Goodall was in 2019 when she was in Singapore for the launch of the Jane Goodall Institute Singapore, or JGIS for short, Conserve Action Week. I had the pleasure of hosting her during the JGIS fundraising gala dinner. During the same trip, in collaboration with NUS, we also proudly supported the 7th Asia Environment Lecture, where Dr. Goodall captivated a crowd of 2,000 attendees with a powerful message of conservation and coexistence. More recently, we had the privilege of Dr. Earle attending the opening of 2 of our climate action exhibitions. The first one was on Change the Present, Save the Ocean in 2022, when I had the opportunity to meet her for the first time, and the second one was on melting ice sinking cities in 2023. Both exhibitions were held at our Zero Energy CDL Green Gallery at the Singapore Botanic Gardens, where Dr. Earle lent a strong voice to the ocean and its ecosystem, emphasizing the interconnection between the health of our ocean and the well-being of our people and our planet. Both these remarkable women have shown that a sustainable future requires the right balance between human needs and ecological imperatives. We must coexist peacefully with the natural world, protect our forests and oceans, reduce our carbon footprint, and build partnerships for positive change. Today's event highlights the power of collaboration. By supporting JGIS and Ocean Geographic, we are investing in a healthier planet and a brighter future. Every dollar raised through this event will aid critical conservation efforts, groundbreaking scientific research, and impactful education programs, all contributing to positive change for our planet's future. In closing, I would like to thank Jane and Sylvia for your over 6 decades of leadership in protecting our green and blue planet. You truly inspire us all. To everyone here, we appreciate your generosity and support. Together, we are creating a world where nature and humanity can exist in harmony for generations to come. Thank you and enjoy the event.
Thank you, Mr. Kwek, for the meaningful message. Next up, we would like to invite Mr. Michael Au, founder of Ocean Geographic, one of CDL's NGO partners for this event, and he'll say a few words and share more about this event's Net Zero Pledge. So please scan the QR code while we welcome Mr. Michael Au to the stage. Mr. Au, please.
Thank you, everyone. DPM Heng Sukit, Dr. Jane Goodall, Deepness, Dr. Sylvia Earle, dignitaries and delegates, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. So here we are. What are we doing here? We are here to encourage everyone to make a pledge for a healthy planet, a pledge for global net zero by 2035. Why are we doing this? Why do we need to do this? So, our planet has reached a disastrous moment in time. In the last 15 months, global temperature has been above 1.5 degrees Celsius, above pre-industrial level. What it means that, for all of us, is that we are heading towards a climate Armageddon, and basically our planet will become more or less inhabitable. Now, this is a chart from 2nd December. I've been to the Arctic about 10 times. This is about 80 degrees north, 79 to 80 degrees north. Where you see the blue around those islands, the island of Svalbard, there's hardly any ice. A friend called me just a few days ago. He said she's very worried. Why is she worried? Because about many female polar bears are waiting to give birth. They couldn't find ice to den. They're going to give us in just less than about a month. So, mothers in this room, imagine 1 month before you give birth, you don't have a home to go to, don't have hospital to go to. That is frightening, very frightening. What's becoming of the Arctic? Last year I was there in June. Average temperature is about 5.5 degrees Celsius, 4 degrees Celsius higher than normal. On one morning, we had a temperature of 27 degrees Celsius. I was on t-shirt and shorts. This is the high Arctic. The animal there, polar bear, ivory gull, do not know what's happening to their home. We do. We have to speak up for nature. We have to speak up for polar bear. And that's why we ask everyone today to pledge for nature, sign a pledge for global net zero by 2035. Last year, Dr. Earle, Esther Ann, about 120 expert minds from engineers, politicians, economists, musicians, artists, went down to the Antarctic to face global warming in motions, to develop resolutions for us to attain net zero by 2035. 2050 is too late. So we started debating even before we go. After the trips of 10, 12 days, we came up with 8 simple resolutions how we can preserve a healthy planet to take us to net zero by 2035. These are the resolutions. Protect marine ecosystem and implement climate-smart protected areas from sea floor to sea surface. Demand the end of fossil fuel extraction. Draw upon coastal stakeholders and indigenous experience, knowledge, and wisdom in ocean conservation. Create a circular economy at all levels. Achieve renewable energy productions that does not harm our natural environment. Communicate the urgency of ocean climate crisis in ways that lead to actions. Reduce wastage and maximize food proficiency. This to me is very close to my heart. Empower youth and create space for the next generation to lead. Children have the power to save our planet, but they have to be empowered. I thank CDL for giving us this platform today to share our pledge and to have Dr. Earle and Dr. Jane Goodall on the same stage. It's a dream come true, and I feel very humbled to be on stage doing this. So our 2 legends, our 2 icons have signed, and now it's your turn. So take your phone out. Everybody point the phone at me. No, not at me, at that. And sign away. Share this within your space of friends and families and schoolmates, etc., and encourage everyone, to live a sustainable lifestyle to take us to net zero. You're doing this not just for yourself. You're doing this for your future loved one. You're doing this for humanity. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mr. Michael Au. So right now is the moment we've all been waiting for. We are honored to have with us 2 very exceptional women champions for the planet, Dr. Jane Goodall and Dr. Sylvia Earle. So we're so lucky to have the 2 legends here with us here in Singapore, right? Yeah, so I'm sure you're all really excited to hear them speak. So if you also have any questions that you'd like to ask them for the dialogue later on, you can scan the QR code at the sides of the room right now to submit some questions. So right now, I am pleased to have the honor of introducing world-renowned ethologist and conservationist Dr. Jane, who is the founder of the Jane Goodall Institute and UN Messenger of Peace. So nearly 65 years ago, Dr. Jane first set foot on the shores of what is today Tanzania's Gombe National Park to begin her trailblazing studies into the lives of wild chimpanzees. So this has transformed scientific perceptions of the relationship between humans and the rest of the animal kingdom. Today, Dr. Jane's mission has evolved into a quest to empower every individual to make the world a better place for people, other animals, and the planet that we share. In 1977, Dr. Jane established the Jane Goodall Institute, a global leader in chimpanzee and habitat protection through Jane's innovation community-led conservation. Jane Goodall's Roots and Shoots is our global environmental and humanitarian program as well that empowers young people of all ages to become involved in hands-on projects of their choosing to benefit the community, animals, and the environment. So before we welcome Dr. Jane Goodall to the stage, we would like to play a short introductory video.
It's been an amazing journey, this life of mine. This planet has filled me with the wonder of all living things, great and small. We cannot ignore this earth that surrounds us, that feeds us, shelters us, replenishes our bodies and our souls, and stretches our imaginations, where animals, plants, air, water, all care for us. We're all interconnected. People, animals, our environment. When nature suffers, we suffer. And when nature flourishes, we all flourish. I do believe in the possibility of a world where we can live in harmony with nature, but only if every one of us does our part to make that world a reality, so that when you look back over your journey, your life, you can truly say, I did make a difference.
Now, without further ado, let's put our hands together to welcome Dr. Jane Goodall to the stage. Dr. Jane, please.
Well, thank you for a wonderful introduction. And I think it's magical that Sylvia and I can be here with you today. Sylvia flew all the way in from California, so my goodness, I'm glad I've been here in Asia for 3 weeks, because I remember what the jet lag was like when I arrived 3 weeks ago. So I've been asked to give a little outline of how I came to be who I am, basically. And I cannot start without acknowledging the tremendous role that my amazing mother played in my life. I was born loving animals, and she supported that love of animals right from the very beginning. I could tell many stories, but they're written in my books. And when I was growing up, there was no television, so I learned from being outside in nature and from books, and I loved books. And we got books in the library. We couldn't afford new books. And anyway, World War II was raging. So Mom helped me find books about animals from the library. And I'm not sure if in Singapore you know Dr. Dolittle, but he was taught animal language by his parrot. Oh, I wanted to learn animal language, and I pretended for quite a while that I could understand the birds and the dogs and the cats, and my friends believed me. I found a little second-hand bookshop, and I used to spend Saturday afternoon rummaging around. And on this particular day, I found a little second-hand cheap edition of Tarzan of the Apes. No films back then. So I took it home and I took it up my favorite tree. I read it from cover to cover. And you know, little girls of 10 can be very romantic. And I fell passionately in love with this glorious lord of the jungle. And what did Tarzan do? He married the wrong Jane. Yes. So I knew there wasn't a Tarzan, but that was when my dream began. I will grow up, go to Africa, live with wild animals, and write books about them. But since I'm here today with Sylvia, and we're talking about the earth and the water, the oceans and the forests, I have to say that I went through about 1 year of my life when I thought only about going under the ocean. I think it was when I read Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and I spent my time drawing fishes and thinking that I would go down and explore the depth of the ocean. But that wasn't to be my role, that was Sylvia's role. And so I was able to follow my dream. I was able to get to Africa. It's a long story. I had to earn the money because, as I say, we had very little. And I had to work as a waitress. and it was hard work, but eventually I got enough money to go to Africa, where I was invited for a holiday by a school friend. Stayed with her, was fortunate to meet the late Dr. Louis Leakey, famous anthropologist, paleontologist, and how amazing. He gave me the opportunity to live with and learn from not just any animal, but the one most like us, with whom we share 78.6% of our DNA, the chimpanzee. It was 4 months they ran away from me. And as I only had money for 6 months, remember, I hadn't been to college, we couldn't afford it. And finally I got money for 6 months. 4 of those 6 months, I only saw chimpanzees through my binoculars. But then one of them, he was a very handsome male, and I named him David Greybeard because he had white hair on his chin. And he began to let me get a bit closer. And on this never-to-be-forgotten day, the breakthrough in my whole research, I saw him on a termite mound, breaking off grass stems and using them to push into holes in the termite nest, carefully pull them out and eat off the termites clinging on with their jaws. And I saw him break off leafy twigs, and to make those into tools to fish for termites, he had to carefully strip the leaves and the side twigs. So David Greybeard was using and making tools. That wouldn't be exciting today. We know there are many animals that can use and make tools, but back then, we were defined by Western science as man the toolmaker. And so this caused a great commotion when the information went around that this young woman had seen a chimpanzee using and making tools. And a lot of scientists said they didn't believe me. Why should they believe me? I hadn't been to college even. One scientist even said she must have taught them to do it. Well, as they were running away, that would have been really, really clever. But anyway, eventually this led to the National Geographic Society saying, okay, Jane, we will continue to fund your research when the 6 months run out. And so then I could relax. Then gradually, partly thanks to David's calm acceptance of my presence, I got to know the other chimpanzees, their vivid personalities, how like us they are in their nonverbal communication, kissing, embracing, holding hands, patting one another in reassurance. 2 males standing up, competing for dominance, swaggering from foot to foot, lips bunched in a furious scowl, shaking their fist. And if that doesn't remind you of some human male politicians, you haven't been watching television. I loved watching how the mothers raise their young. Long childhood, because chimpanzees like us, young chimps, they have a lot to learn. They learn by observing, imitating, practicing, and of course through experience. Bonds between mothers and offspring can last through life. Bonds between brothers and sisters, and the same. I was shocked to find that, like us, they have a dark and brutal side to their nature. This can involve killing. They even have a kind of primitive warfare. But just like us, they also can show love, compassion, and true altruism, as when an adult male may adopt an infant whose mother has died and save that child's life, providing the child is 3 years or older, because up until 3, the child is totally dependent on the mother's milk. That's how long childhood is in chimpanzee society. I'd been with the chimps about 2 years when I get a letter from my mentor, Dr. Leakey, saying that now, he said, I chose you because your mind had not been corrupted by the very reductionist attitude of Western science towards animals at that time. But now you've got to get a degree because I want other scientists to take you seriously. We haven't got time for an undergraduate degree. I've got you a place in Cambridge University in the UK to do a PhD in ethology. Well, I didn't even know what ethology was, and you couldn't Google anything in those days. You can imagine when I got to Cambridge, I was nervous, never been to college. Imagine how I felt when I was told I'd done everything wrong. I shouldn't talk about chimpanzees by name, they should have numbers. That was scientific. I couldn't talk about them having personalities, minds capable of solving problems, and certainly not emotions, happiness, sadness, fear. Those were unique to humans. And I was told you cannot have empathy with your subjects. To be a good scientist, you must be objective. You cannot be objective if you have empathy. Well, fortunately, as a child, I'd had a wonderful teacher, and he taught me that in this respect, these eminent scientists were talking absolute rubbish. That teacher was my dog, Rusty. You can't share your life in a meaningful way with any kind of animal and not know that indeed we are not the only sentient, sapient beings on the planet. So anyway, I went on talking about the chimps as they are. My then husband, sent by the Geographic, took amazing film, and as that went around the world, corroborating everything I'd said, gradually scientific attitude began to change. Anyhow, I got my PhD and went back to Gombe, the happiest days of my life out in the rainforest, beginning to understand the ecosystem of the rainforest, how everything was interconnected and had a role to play, every little plant and animal. And I thought I'd stay there forever. But then at a conference in 1986, I understood that across Africa, chimpanzee numbers were dropping and forests were being destroyed. And I just went to that conference as a scientist, left as an activist, feeling I had to do something. Managed to get some money from Geographic. By then there were 6 other chimpanzee study sites across Africa. Visited them, learned a great deal about the problems faced by chimps, mostly habitat destruction, but also the bushmeat trade, the commercial hunting of wild animals for food, and killing mothers to steal babies to sell for entertainment or pets overseas. And so at the same time, I was learning about the plight of so many of the African people living in and around chimpanzee habitat, the crippling poverty, the lack of good health or education facilities. And it came to a head when I flew over the tiny Gombe National Park, where, by the way, we're in our 64th year of research on the same groups of chimpanzees. And when I began in 1960, was part of a great equatorial forest belt stretching across Africa. By the mid-1980s, I looked down on a little island of forest surrounded by completely bare hills. And it suddenly hit me. These people are cutting down their trees in their struggle to survive, to make money from charcoal or timber, or from growing food, sometimes simply growing food to feed their families. If we can't help these people find ways of making a living without destroying their environment, we can't save chimpanzees, forests, or anything else. And so the Jane Goodall Institute began our true first community-led conservation program. We call it our Takari method. And it was worked out in collaboration with the local people, not a bunch of arrogant white people going into a poor African village and telling them what we were going to do to help them. No, asking them what we could do to make their lives better. And it's evolved into a really holistic program which involves restoring fertility to overused farmland, water management programs, scholarships to give girls a chance of secondary education. They had none in rural areas back then. microfinance based on Muhammad Yunus's Grameen Bank, so that poor villagers could choose their own small, environmentally sustainable business. And we provide family planning information, all done by the local people. It's been so successful. We've introduced some modern technology, GIS, GPS, satellite imagery, the use of drones and camera traps. And it's now spread to 6 other African countries where JGI works in chimpanzee areas. And we're ready to scale up. There's a book, Local Voices, Local Choices. This program can work anywhere. So I'm traveling around the world by then. We've now got to late 1980s. And as I'm traveling around raising awareness and, of course, having to try and raise money too, I was meeting young people, high school, university, and already back then they were losing hope. They were angry, depressed, apathetic. And when I asked them why they felt like that, the answer was more or less the same everywhere. We feel like this because you've compromised our future and there's nothing we can do about it. Have we compromised the future of our young people? We've been stealing it, probably since the Industrial Revolution, maybe since the Agricultural Revolution, and we're still stealing it today. But when they said there was nothing they could do, I thought, no, that's not true. And so with a gathering in Tanzania, 30 high school students, we designed this Roots and Shoots program, where the main message, every single individual, everyone in this room, we make an impact on the planet every day, and we can choose what sort of impact we make. And because everything's interconnected, we decided every group would choose, it would be bottom up. They would choose 3 projects to make the world better, to help people, to help other animals, to help the environment. And that program now is in 71 countries and still growing. We have members in kindergarten, even a few little preschoolers, very strong in university, even some adults now forming groups. And it's my greatest hope for the future. I think I get a chance a bit later to talk about my hope for the future. But number 1 is young people. Once they understand the problems and we empower them to take action, there is no stopping them. And so that's my little message as to how I came to be who I am, why I'm here, why I will never give up until my body does. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jane. That was so inspiring. I loved all the stories that she shared as well. Yeah, let's let her take her leave. So everyone, next up, we are very honored to welcome another very, very special champion for the planet up on stage. So we'd like to welcome Dr. Sylvia Earle, who's a world-renowned marine biologist who has spent the better part of over 6 decades exploring the world's oceans. She's the first female chief scientist of the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and she's also an explorer in residence at the National Geographic Society, who has led more than 100 expeditions, logged over 7,000 hours underwater, and has authored over 190 scientific, technical, and popular publications. Named Time Magazine's first hero of the planet, she has pioneered research on marine ecosystems with a special focus on exploration, conservation, and the development of new technologies for effectively assessing the deep sea and other remote environments. Dr. Earle's commitment to marine science extends beyond research. She also actively promotes public awareness about the threats facing ocean ecosystems due to overfishing as well as pollution. Her influential voice in the scientific community continues to inspire future generations to advocate for the protection of our ocean. So without further ado, Dr. Earle, the stage is yours. Let's put our hands together to welcome her.
thank you for that generous introduction. It's a little, intimidating to come speak after you, Jane. But it's also an honor to be here and share the platform with you and to have all of you here to tune in, to listen, and think about the best chance we will ever have to change the trajectory that we all are currently experiencing of planetary decline, to turn, and instead of tipping in the wrong direction, to use whatever we have, each of us, to move in the right direction. So, I just got a message a few days ago saying that a bird that I met in 2012, the bird that was just up on the screen, where did she go? There she is. This is Wisdom, an albatross that is based in Midway Island. She is thought to be the oldest known bird. She's sitting on, in this case, an egg of the year, but at the age of at least 74, she has just created another reason for hope. She and her lifetime partner, who's probably out getting some groceries to bring back to feed to Wisdom. So at about the same time that she was learning to fly, I was learning to dive. And it's been my pleasure, my privilege, to be able, over the decades, to have that view of the world from the inside out. I so envy you, Jane, with the ability to go into the forest day and night, not just for a few days or weeks or months, but years, getting to know one species very well, and to win their trust, to get to know and see their faces, get to know them as individuals, see that they have personalities, and understand who they are, not just what they are. So I have been privileged, more than most, to be able to spend time underwater. Not nearly enough, but better than the traditional means of exploring the ocean, which means dragging a net, lowering hooks, dragging dead animals back to the surface, and trying to figure out who they are, what are their lives like, just by looking at the dead bodies. We're still doing that. Standard oceanographic techniques still mean you lower hooks, you drag nets, you look at specimens that you bring. But the world is changing. But I'd like to think sometimes, what would you know about the forests? What would you know about chimpanzees if you were up there in the sky lowering a net, dragging and bringing up dead animals? Why don't we care about creatures of the sea the way that we have begun to care about our fellow animals on the land? You can't care if you don't know. And getting to know the ocean requires, we got to be there. You have to see the creatures on their own terms. I've had the privilege, again, of coming along at just the right time with an interest in the ocean when I was among the first to have a chance to use scuba, and then to be invited to be a part of a system to live underwater for the first time, spending as much as 2 weeks. I mean, when you think of the years you have spent, Jane, getting to know a place, the animals, not just the chimpanzees, but the whole ecosystem, to really feel it and see it in action, how things connect. But at least to have days and nights over a reasonable period of time, and I've done it now 10 times, to be able to live underwater and get to know those creatures, see their faces. But even so, these underwater laboratories that enable you to stay for extended periods of time can only go so deep. The average depth of the ocean is 4+ kilometers, the maximum 11 kilometers. And, you know, it was not until 1960 that the first 2 people went to the deepest part of the ocean, and they were there for 20 minutes. They did come back with the news, and it was news, that it's full of life from the surface all the way down. They were looking through a tiny little porthole, but they could see this stuff in the water. It isn't empty space. The ocean is not just rocks and water. It's alive. It's alive. And the more we have opportunities, mostly in the 20th century now into the 21st, to be able to see what our predecessors could not. It's the ocean that really drives the way the planet works, drives climate, shapes planetary chemistry, and it's home for most of life on Earth. You think about it. That's where the water is. All life requires water. There could be water without life, but there's no life without water. And 97% of Earth's water is ocean. So, being a 21st century human being now, I am thrilled that the technology is coming along, just as I was a part of civilization when the first access to the skies above our atmosphere, into space, looking back on Earth as this blue miracle. And now to be a part of the action, to see the development of technology that enables me to go deeper than we can hold our breath. I mean, some people are able to go deeper than I can go holding my breath, but nobody is able to go as deep as the ocean is. Even breath-holding reptiles and mammals cannot go as deep as we can go with technology that now exists to go to full ocean depth. It's only a handful of individuals who so far have had that privilege. But with National Geographic, going back to the late 90s and into the early part of this century, it was possible to engage kids as well as scientists and decision makers. Even the head of National Geographic got to go down in a little submarine to see for himself, to see for themselves what it's like where it begins to get dark, below where sunlight shines. And I've had a chance now to use more than 30 different kinds of submarines to be able to actually go below where the blue changes to purple and violet, and then it's just dark, except for the flash and the sparkle and glow of luminous creatures that make their own living light. If I could, I'd take all of us right down into the depths right now, scoop you up and put you into submersibles to go see what it's like. It's one thing to talk about it, to try to explain it, but it's another to try to take you there. Experiences are so important. So, right now, while we're sitting here in California, there are a couple of little spheres being turned into submersibles that about this time next year will wind up in French Polynesia in one of the hope spots, one of the places that the organization that I started some years ago called Mission Blue established places that champions, communities, kids, individuals coming together with a common goal of embracing a place that they know and love with hope. And one of those places is Tetiaroa. It's in French Polynesia, associated with a high-end resort called the Brando. And people who will come there will have the privilege of diving the little Honu sub, a deep hope sub. The same kinds of subs that I hope will someday be based here in Singapore. Why not? To have access to the sea. We go high in the sky, we can go on the surface of the planet almost anywhere we want. But to get down below where sunlight shines, that's a privilege. And it's something that I hope, partnership with Ocean Geographic, that this vision might become reality. It's my dream, Jane, that I can take you. He can come too. Just to see, just to experience, and to get the reality that the ocean is alive. Now, I have had the privilege of introducing a number of people to the ocean from the inside out. Here's the Minister of the Environment from Ecuador in the Galapagos. He is a diver, so he kind of knows that the ocean is alive. And he was a little apprehensive about what it would be like, but he got over it pretty quickly. And when we got to the bottom, you know, magic happened. This ocean sunfish came up and whispered in his ear. You know it's going to happen, that creatures are curious. They will come and look at you. It pains me just to think that so many of the creatures of the sea are not regarded as wildlife. They're just regarded as commodities, something for sale. We've used to commodify, and we still do, life, nature. We call nature natural resources, something to be used, to be turned into something more useful than it is if you just leave it there, doing its magical thing. But I have to say, as a witness, Jane, you're a witness. David Attenborough, a witness to nature in a way that few people have had the privilege of being. Motivated because of what we have experienced. You have to share the view. You have to get others to want to go see for themselves, to look at a fish as something other than with lemon slices and butter. I mean, we know how good these creatures taste, but who are they? How do they live? How do they spend their days and nights? And what is their... How can we account for the magnitude of our ignorance as we face the rest of the 21st century and on into the future? We're really good at converting nature into something other than what it is naturally doing, being a part of our life support system, making our existence possible. And we constantly have this attitude, there is an eel, there, over my shoulder. What good is an eel? It's somehow this habit of thinking that it's only good if we can make it useful somehow as we define use. When I first began exploring the ocean, I was told to watch out for the sharks because they're all man-eaters, and then I realized that, well, Jane and I don't have to worry about man-eater sharks. We don't qualify. But now, the real problem is men and women are eating sharks. The good news is that we still have 10% of them left. They're not all gone. They've mostly been taken for commodities, for sale, for consumption, one way or the other, since the 1980s. That reduction in numbers, collapsing, species that have been around for 400 million years, now right on the edge of disappearing because of us. Whales, similarly, were on the crosshairs of extinction. And, you know, we could do it. If we wanted to, we could exterminate every single whale. We could find them and eliminate them, and we did a pretty good job of doing so. Now we know they have societies, language, faces. Every individual can be recognized as an individual. they have a history. A lot of that history has been lost because of us. But now we can see them coming back together again. The good news, there are more whales today than when I was a child. I witnessed half a dozen young sperm whales being turned into something, by our definition, more useful, because we could sell the meat, sell the oil. But where was the whale? On our watch, we have the chance to make the transition. I say there are more whales now than when I was a child because we've come to the point of understanding there's more value to a whale than just a commodity. Do you imagine, can you imagine, that someday we'll think of tuna as something more than just a product that can be sold, can be consumed? We know how to kill them. We could kill them all. We're pretty close to doing so. We're down to about the same level of tuna, bluefins especially, as there were of whales when we stopped killing whales. I mean, it looks like yum, yum, delicious, but it's bushmeat from the ocean. Okay, Mr. Lorax, where are you? We are clear-cutting the ocean, and we need to think differently. We can look up at the sky and see it's beautiful, but it's really unfriendly. This is the little blue miracle, our home, and it's filled with life. Fortunately for us, the little guys in the ocean have been churning out oxygen, and they've been capturing carbon and passing it along with food webs that shape the chemistry of this planet into a habitable planet. They've been doing it for several billion years, creating this web of life. The creatures are largely invisible. If you just capture a bucket of water and you hold it up, you're not going to see most of the life that's there, but it is there. And here is the chemistry of the planet in action. So, little green guys have been churning out oxygen, capturing carbon, creating food, feeding it to this great diversity of life, including the little fish that are being eaten by the bigger fish, sharks. You see the birds coming down from above. All of us, all of them, we're all made of stardust in the end. It's the chemistry of the planet in action, the living planet, that now is more than just life. On our watch, we have seen the change of the chemistry of the planet becoming more acidic in the ocean because of the excess carbon dioxide and because of the things that we have developed that we're putting into the ocean. Cause for hope. Now we know Johan Roskilde and the planetary guardians, the scientists who are looking, crunching the numbers, looking at the past, assessing the present, saying, what do we have to do? Is there any reason for hope? Can we make this change? We're right at the edge of pushing the boundaries of those circumstances that make Earth habitable. I think the answer is a resounding yes. There is cause for hope, plenty of reason for hope. But hope alone doesn't cut it. It's hope leading to action. Never before could we know what we now know. Never again will we have a chance as good as what we now have within our grasp. Imagine if we didn't know that the ice around Antarctica has been shrinking, that sea level is rising, that the fabric of life itself is being shattered because of our actions. Right here in Singapore, about half of the species that existed here 200 years ago are now missing. They're gone. The good news is half of them are still here. You know, they're not all gone, especially here in Singapore, the city within a garden. The attitude of understanding that nature counts and that what we give back comes back to us. That we need nature. Nature needs us now, though, to wake up, wise up, and use this thing we carry around on our shoulders. I call it knowledge leading to wisdom if we're lucky. Just a year ago in Antarctica, you heard Michael All describe our expedition to Antarctica. We met this young minke whale, creatures that still are in the crosshairs of being taken by a few countries. But just seeing this curious creature, innocent, like most of wild animals, just had to come over and check us out. It's just one of those encounters that makes you think. It's because of their innocence that they were so easy to kill. They're curious, so we killed them, turned them into products. And we're still doing it with creatures from the ocean. So, Michael also described that coming up in June of this year, there will be an expedition to the Arctic, similarly, to try to understand who we are within the natural systems that make our existence possible. What can be done now that we know that polar bears are in serious trouble because of us? They're not out to get us, and we're not really out to get them, but as a consequence of our actions, polar bears are a symbol of what's happening to the planet overall. Reason for hope. Now we know. Imagine if we didn't know. That would be a problem. All of these other creatures who are totally innocent of anything we do. The future is really in our hands. Their future is in our hands. And so think about, what are we doing right now? We're thinking about mining the deep sea. Why would we even consider doing such a thing now that we know what we know? Highest priority needs to be protecting as much of the natural, intact wilderness, the wild places, the natural systems, and restoring what we can. Find our place. It's not just here in Singapore, globally, the loss of species, the destruction of wilderness, because it seemed like a good idea, as Mr. Lorax himself said. Now we know. And we do have reason for optimism. I mean, this is a scene from a place that is said to be devoid of life, where manganese nodules litter the seafloor. Those are living rocks. They are still growing. They're infused with microbes. It's a habitat. It's a scene very lively and very diverse in the crosshairs of destruction. What we do or fail to do right now will determine whether we can say with a straight face, there's a reason for hope. Knowing is the key to caring. And working with Ocean Geographic to create access to the sea, to go to the hope spots around the world. There are now 165 places with champions, with communities, with kids who are learning about the ocean, who are embracing the places around where they live with a commitment to turn from decline to recovery while we still have a chance. I share with Jane the reasons that I've heard you say, Jane, that it's the human mind with our great capacity to solve problems, to think about our place in the universe. It's the human spirit. We can look at a problem and find solutions, especially when we know what those problems are. Now we know. Your third reason is the resilience of nature. Glory be, Look at what we've already done to the planet, and yet we can still breathe. And there's still 10% of the sharks. There's still about 10% or so of many of the creatures that we are currently consuming, but they're not all gone. This is the moment. The next 5 years, according to Johan Rockström and the Planetary Guardians, will be the critical time when we make or break the best chance we will ever have to find a secure place for ourselves within the natural systems that make possible our existence. Your final reason, Jane, is mine too. It's the kids. I mean, reason for hope. The kids of today, when they're 10 years old, are exposed to knowledge, information. What does the world look like from high in the sky? What does the world look like from deep in the sea? The knowledge is there that did not and could not exist when I was a child. They've got a jump start, armed with knowledge. And now, I hope, armed with hope. And the realization that they've got the power that I didn't have, that no one had a century ago. There's still the best chance we will ever have. It's right now. 50 years ago, we didn't know enough to understand what we were doing to the only planet in the universe that will be our forever home. 50 years from now, unless we do something right now, unless somebody cares a whole lot, things will not get better. They will not. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Earle. What an incredible journey you've been on. I'd like to invite you to remain on stage with me as we prepare for the next segment of the program. Oh, you can stand a little forward just in case because we've got chairs set up over here. So may I also invite Dr. Jane along with moderators, Ms. Esther, and Chief Sustainability Officer of CDL, and she's also one of 2023 Time 100 Climate Leaders in Business. I would also like to invite Dr. Sean Lam, Nature Society Singapore's former president and senior lecturer at NTU's Asian School of the Environment. May I invite all of you up on stage, please, to join the dialogue of the century. So everyone, please put your hands together for all of these amazing people as we begin the dialogue.
Okay, hi, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Jane, thank you, Sylvia, for making our dream come true. And just before COVID, Michael and I have some, climate meeting, and then we came up with this idea that how about we put the two legendary, heroines on stage together. And then COVID stole everything. And that was after the Antarctic expedition. We brought back this idea again. And very quickly, I talked to Andy earlier this year. And here we are. And this is the Singapore pace of action. Thank you so much for having 1,400 people here. And we're really happy. And some in the audience actually flew in just for this occasion. We are really, truly thankful. And without further ado, I would like to pass the mic to my partner. And we hope to have a very meaningful conversation that every one of you will pledge for net zero and take action in your own right. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. Thank you, everyone. Dr. Jane, Dr. Earle, the amazing presentations. Thank you. Just wanted to start, first thing, I actually want to start by apologizing. There's a couple of my students, I think Cheryl, Belna, you took my conservation class this past semester. I should have just made you read the Lorax. It would have been just as probably better, so apologies. Dr. Jane, quick question for you. And the way we first sort of crafted it was really to try to understand what some of the challenges you faced, maybe going as a young researcher starting out from urban London to Gombe, which was still Tanganyika, wasn't it? But maybe in a more general sense, what were some of the main challenges that you've faced? And it could have been back in the early days or even now that you, as a personal challenge to you.
Well, I would say, Sean, the biggest challenge over all time has been getting enough money. Because, you know, you can't, there were things that one could have done if there was more money. Today, we could grow roots and shoot around the world if there was more money. And we must, because, as I said, it is my biggest reason for hope. These young people, once they understand the problems, and we empower them to take action, and we let them choose what they want to do so that they approach it with passion. But, you know, although it's in 71 countries, in many of those countries it's quite small, and they have to get money to employ at least one person to oversee the program. Otherwise, it's just volunteers who have their own lives to live. So money, of course, in the early days, chimps running away, the terrain is difficult, but basically, you know, I was lucky.
Well, Dr. Earle, apart from resources that we all need in order to drive action, and deep sea diving, and we saw all the video images, it may look beautiful, but I'm sure there were risks as well. So what were the most memorable challenges or risks that you have overcome over your past 6 decades of deep sea researching? And maybe you can encourage, you know, some in the audience, I know they are all diving, you know, enthusiasts, and any tips for them to overcome certain, you know, risk or fear and, you know, follow your footsteps? Yeah.
Well, it's really, really frustrating not to have gills. I think this, yeah, I think, can you hear me all right this way? Gills. Don't you all wish you had gills? I mean, it's access to the ocean. I mean, we've been able to look skyward and make wishes come true, even to go to the moon, maybe someday to Mars. More people have been to the moon until quite recently than have been to the deepest part of the ocean. I mean, that to me is one of the great reasons to be a 21st century human being, that we're right on the edge of what is the greatest era of exploration. And the deeper we go into the sea, the less we know, but the more new discoveries we're finding. And I mean, I think the 21st century kids are the luckiest ones ever to come along. And if I had to choose, I mean, I'm great to have experienced what I've experienced, but, you know, hang on. The best is right ahead, including finding our place within the natural systems that make possible our very existence. What a wonderful goal, that we couldn't do it before, we just simply did not know enough. And so I just wish I could start out right now and be a part of the best action that there ever could be.
Well, actually, last year we have the honors to be part of the Antarctic climate expedition, and in your documentary, 2099 Power in Us, we have a lot of young people to talk about their wishes and resolutions. So you mentioned there are more whales in the ocean now than in previous decades. And what are some of the milestones that you have given you the hope that we should still continue to explore and do and conserve the ocean?
It works. When you stop killing and start caring, good things happen. It really makes all the difference. Now, I wholeheartedly embrace the concept of planting 1 trillion trees, especially if it's the right kind of tree in the right place and you take care of it and it belongs where you put it. But restoration is really hard as compared to taking care of the distillation of all of preceding time that's invested in a place, whether it's on the land or in the sea. The last wild places should be our highest priority, places that are still in pretty good shape, or really that are pristine. In the ocean, the deep sea, the high seas, the best chance our species will ever have is to embrace those still intact places with care, as if our lives depend on it, because they really do. And then anything we have left over, let's restore what we can, but realize, like here in Singapore, find our place within nature. Here, much of nature was lost, but you've saved some of what was there, old growth, and you're restoring what you can. If we could just get the world to shape up and understand, finding our place within the natural systems that make possible our very existence, we can succeed. I think we're perilously close to being on a roll, but let's roll in the right direction, because it could go the other way.
Thank you.
No, yeah, Dr. Sylvia. Again, Dr. Jane, here I have to confess, I've been watching your documentary since those early National Geographic ones, and I've had the chance to meet you on a few visits here to Singapore. I did not know until today that you had gone through a marine exploration phase after reading Jules Verne. So that was a revelation to me. But the other thing was interesting too is that, I mean, from my own perspective as a ecologist, we are in a way forced to specialize. Are you a marine ecologist, a terrestrial one? Are you a botanist? Are you a zoologist? And I think that both of you are among the few who from very early on have been speaking of kind of holistic approaches to saving the planet. And I think for you, Dr. Jane, I mean, how do you envision coming up with solutions, promoting solutions that emphasize the kind of interdependence of land and sea in your experience?
Well, I think, since the entire planet is one whole, that clearly the effect of the sea on the land, on the sea, water rises up out of the sea and it descends on the land, and the land pollutes it and sends it back down the rivers filled with industrial, household and agricultural waste to pollute the ocean. And the cycle goes around and around. And the ocean absorbs CO2 until it absorbs too much and becomes acidic. And the forests absorb the ocean, the kelp forests in the ocean absorb CO2, seagrass absorbs CO2, the wetlands and the grasslands and the prairies and peat, they all absorb CO2. And we're destroying all of them. And what we destroy on the land, we cut down the trees, then we get soil erosion, then we get all this industrial agriculture is responsible for so much damage with its chemical pesticides and herbicides and artificial fertilizer, just killing the very soil on which we rely. Yes, we rely on the ocean, but we rely on the soil too. What's going to happen if the soil is all washed into the ocean or blown away in the desert sandstorms because of erosion? So it really is one interrelated ecosystem, the ocean, the forests, and all the other areas of our planet. And what you asked earlier about the problems that I've faced. There was one thing I forgot to say, and I think because people may have been wondering about these little people here, I should add this. And that was, when I first went to Cambridge and was told I'd done everything wrong and that animals couldn't have personalities, minds, or emotions, and, animal intelligence was totally downplayed, And now, yes, we know that chimpanzees, other apes, whales, elephants are highly intelligent. There's lots of work on that. But now we have Craig Foster making a film called My Octopus Teacher, emphasizing the intelligence of octopuses. And of course, we know about that from octopuses also in captivity. But we're learning. Now, rats don't have a very good reputation, right? They actually are incredibly intelligent. They make amazing pets. But Ratty represents the giant forest rat of Africa. And with their amazing sense of smell, they are able to detect landmines buried deep under the soil left after Africa's long civil wars. They've more or less cleared Mozambique of landmines. They're working in Angola, Cambodia, and other places. They're now being taught, and I've watched them being taught, they're taught in Tanzania, and they can climb up into the containers in the ports, and they can sniff out illegal animal trafficking, the remains of animals or live animals. They can go down after a bomb or an earthquake, search through the rubble. If they find a living person, they ring a little bell around their neck. And so somebody can go and try and rescue that person. Pigs. Some of you probably know pigs are as intelligent as dogs. She's representing Picasso. Not Picasso the artist. Picasso, rescued from slaughter by a woman who has a little farm sanctuary. And she noticed that this pig was fascinated when she was painting. So one day she set up an easel, she put a paintbrush with paint in the pig's mouth, and the pig started to paint. You can Google Picasso. Her paintings are selling for more than $5,000. And people say, oh, what an amazing pig. The point I want to make, Picasso is an amazing pig. She's been given the opportunity to prove how amazing pigs are. And this is your bacon, your pork. Every pig you eat has the same intelligence, the same ability to do things like making paintings. So one of the obstacles I've come up against is trying to fight the way that people demean animals still, not just in intensive animal farming, which is so cruel you cannot imagine, but in our medical research labs, where we're using monkeys. Monkeys now, so many monkeys because of COVID. And it's horrendous, and we don't need it. This is the point I want to make. There are alternatives to using animals in just about every form of animal testing in medicine, and they're more reliable and they're cheaper. And it's been shown again and again that very little animal research has benefited people at all. And it's the same with you like your meat. Well, go vegan and you'll find an alternative to meat, and I defy you to to choose which is the real meat and which is the artificial meat. So these are the problems that I'm fighting now.
I mean, same thing with, yeah.
Just a lovely story about that.
Just a footnote, fish are meat too.
Sylvia, you've reminded me. Do you know that goldfish are being taught to play football? You can Google that too. It's a Chinese man. There's 3 or 4 fish this end of the tank and the other end, and 2 little goals. And these ones try and push the ball this way, and those ones try and push it. Watch it. It's amazing. So it's not just that fish are food, like pigs are food, but it's that fish have this amazing intelligence. It's only just being uncovered.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, this reminds me, where I listened to a talk given by you, Dr. Earle, once, and you said, even at least on land, when we talk about wildlife, we call it biodiversity. But once they're in the sea, it's just called seafood, right? So it's the perspective is just so different, isn't it?
Yes, precisely. And Dr. Earle, you have many words of wisdom. The one that I remember most that is actually no water, no life. No blue, no green. So definitely blue and green are all interconnected. In your 6 decades of, deep sea diving and all that?
It's just that water, fresh water, water. All life needs water. Those, they call themselves exobiologists, those who want to find life elsewhere in the universe. What do they look for? Water. And most of Earth's water is ocean. It's where most of life on Earth actually exists. And I mean, what an opportunity for the kids coming along to get to know this planet from the inside out, or top down, wherever, to pull it all together. It is one interacting system, as Jane has eloquently illustrated. It's not blue here, green there. It's one living planet. And that's the key. It's alive, not just rocks and water. Rocks, water, plus time, a lot of it. I mean, 4.5 billion years, and here we are. It's taken us about 4.5 decades to significantly unravel what it has taken all the ages before to assemble in our favor. I mean, this is a pretty good planet for humans. It wasn't 1 billion years ago, but it is today. Well, it still is. Our job is to not lose what we've got.
Well, in your newly published memoir, Souls, you also mentioned that you have really spent, your lifelong experience in the sea, and what you have actually seen the oceans evolve. And as the voice of the ocean, what would you want to tell, people about climate change is affecting the ocean, and what exactly have you seen development over the last 6 decades?
How long do we have? I'll just say this, that I get asked a lot about, okay, I get it, we've got some problems. What can I do, right? And I'm looking at a lot of reasons for hope right there. And I cannot tell anybody, any of you, what you can do. So I really think you need to ask yourself that question, what can I do? Look in the mirror. Say, who am I? What have I got? I know there are talents in here. I know the talents that some of you have personally, with photography, with art, with music, a way with words, a way with kids, a way with animals. No one is the same. That's part of our power. It's part of the power of life. The individuality of all fish, all primates, ourselves included. It's looking at the problems and figuring out what piece of it you can do something about. Nobody can do it alone. I mean, Jane's doing a pretty good job all by herself, but she cannot do it unless others are inspired to pick up their piece of it and do what each can. And together, just imagine if we started moving in the same direction toward protecting nature, toward what do we eat, what do we wear, how do we travel, whatever it is that we do that is within this list of problems that we now know what the problems are, but we know what the solutions are. And I wouldn't get discouraged because you can't do it all, but you can all do something. Kids especially.
Dr. Goodall, you have something to share?
Which is the message of our Roots and Shoots program. Every single individual makes an impact every single day. We all need to do our bit.
Yes.
That's the key message. And it's happening.
Definitely. That's why today's program, we call it Hope and Harmony. And that is exactly the next sessions that we are going to talk about. Sean?
Well, yeah, no, so again, Esther, thank you. So I've read these recent studies, so a few that on the state of nature, for example. So the most recent Living Planet report says that wildlife have decreased 70% since 1970. So that's even within my lifetime. And then we had a cat once. She lived to 19, and in the lifetime of the cat, most of the forests of Southeast Asia disappeared. I mean, were converted. I mean, it's so easy to just feel distressed, depressed about some of this, and yet the two of you continue to, you are the biggest purveyors of hope that we have, and so where do you get your motivation from, and what would you advise again, the young people and the young at heart in this audience? What would you advise us? You did say, be determined, don't give up, but in a practical sense, what can we do?
Okay, practical sense for young people, join Roots and Shoots. No, but my reasons for hope that I'm always talking about, and one I've already mentioned, the power, determination, courage of young people once they know the problems and we empower them to take action. And at this point, by the way, a little diversion, I truly want to congratulate those 3 young people who did the Lorax, because, at that age, to learn everything you learn, to deliver it so perfectly. And I love the Lorax. I've seen it acted before. It's an amazing story that everybody should read. And anyway, so thank you for doing it so beautifully at such a young age. You have a great career ahead of you if you wish to go on the stage.
So that's the thing. I watched the performance, which was brilliant, but I thought, what am I doing? I should retire already. These guys are doing much better than I am.
But anyway, reasons for hope. One reason for hope is that far more people now are aware. Far more people are aware. And even big corporations are beginning to change. And it was right here in Singapore, I gave a talk to a whole bunch of CEOs. I think they came from around the world. I don't know, it was on Zoom in COVID days. And one of them afterwards said to me, Jane, I promise you for the last 8 years, I've really, really been trying to get my company to be more sustainable in the countries where we source our products, in the way that we try and get a sustainable supply line, although that's very difficult. And in the what was the last one? The way that we operate in our offices with each other, and the way we treat our customers. And he said there were 3 reasons. One, I saw the writing on the wall. I saw that in some places we're using up natural resources faster than nature can replenish them. And consumer pressure. People are beginning to ask questions. How was this product made? Did it harm the environment? Was it cruel to animals like factory farming? Is it cheap because of unfair wages? And then they're beginning to look for more ethical products, which might cost a bit more, probably will, but if it costs a bit more, won't we value it more and waste less? Because human waste is a huge global problem, and we're wasting food while people are starving. It upsets me every time I sit down to a meal to think of the people who have nothing. Anyway, but he said, the thing that tipped the balance for me was my little girl coming home from school one day, and she said, Daddy, they tell me that what you're doing is harming the planet. That's not true, is it, Daddy? Because it's my planet. That reached the heart. And I truly believe the only way we can really create change in people is not by arguing with them or pointing out that they're bad people or what they're doing wrong or what they should be doing right, but a story to reach the heart. So it's when head and heart work in harmony, then we can attain our true human potential. And it's beginning to happen. We started Roots and Shoots in '91, and some of what I call our alumni are already in decision-making positions, and it shows they retain the values of compassion and respect that are so very important.
I think it's happening in this room as you both speak also, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Anyway,
definitely.
quickly, the other reason for hope that you mentioned, Sylvia, that I always talk about, the resilience of nature. I have the luck of going around the world meeting incredible people and seeing places that we've completely destroyed, given another chance. If you fly over Gombe today, you won't see bare hills anymore. Thanks to Takari program, they've understood protecting the environment isn't just for wildlife, it's also for their own future. Animals on the brink of extinction can be given another chance. It happens in the sea life as well. Animals have rebounded back like the whales. And you know, my final reason for hope is the indomitable human spirit, and that's why I carry Mr. H around with me, given to me 33 years ago by a man called Gary Horn, who thought that he was giving me a stuffed chimp for my birthday. And I took his hand and made him hold the tail. Gary, chimps don't have tails. Gary. So Gary made that mistake because at 21 he went blind, totally blind. And for some odd reason, he decided he wanted to become a magician. And everybody said, Gary, you can't be a magician if you're blind. The children don't know he's blind. And at the end of his show, he'll tell them and say, things may go wrong in your life because you never know. But don't give up, there's always a way forward. And he does skydiving. He does cross-country skiing. He's been down with great white sharks in a cage, and people say, well, what's the point of going down if you can't see the shark? He says, if you're not blind, you cannot imagine the huge change in water pressure as that huge body goes by you. And I think most amazing of all, he's taught himself to paint. And I have a portrait of Mr. H, which he's never seen, only felt.
Thank you so much, Jane, Dr. Goodall. And I can assure you that the corporates are actually stepping up here in the audience. We have a lot of corporates who are working very hard on greening their products. And in fact, you know, the policymaker, they are also setting the example. They are going to publish their sustainability report next year. So what get measured, get managed. So we need public sector, private sector, people sector to all work together. And just one more question for you, Dr. Earle, that, you know, you talk about the twilight. That is hope that you discover. So for us as an advocate, we always say never say never. We always have hope. Maybe you can share with us, you know, what you discover, you know, that, you know, so thousands of, you know, 200 meter to 1,000 meter below the sea. What is that? What does that bring new hope to humanity?
Well, Jane and I agree. I think probably everyone in this room agrees that the best reason for optimism about the future are the kids coming along. But there's another element to it, and that is some of us are past the point of being called a kid, but there's a kid inside of everyone, no matter how many decades you've layered on. Being able to have an experience that recovers that sense of wonder, that sense of awe, that sense of joy in being alive that provokes you to ask questions. Who, what, why, where? I mean, just what kids naturally do. It's still there. If by providing incentive to get into a situation, whether it's going into a wilderness area you've never been, or whether it's just putting on a face mask and looking at the ocean that you've never seen before, or getting into a little submarine to go where, sadly, few people so far have been privileged to go. Imagine if people had not, at this stage, if no one had been high in the sky, if aviation had not come along to give us the ability, not just to get from here to there, but to witness Earth from high above, to see our homes with that perspective. The ocean is home for most of life on Earth, and we're just beginning to nibble around the edges of it, to get to understand it, to see it for what it really is. It's a living system populated with a history of life on Earth, with creatures that have been around for hundreds of millions of years, and they're still here. I mean, I'm talking jellyfish, I'm talking starfish, I'm talking about this whole spectrum of life that has no counterpart in any terrestrial place. It's all still there in the ocean, but we're just beginning at this is, I think, the greatest time ever to be a kid of any age, because of the opportunity to get to experience for the first time in all of our history the ability to actually see the origin of life itself, to understand that we have microscopes that can enable us to see the very small, right down to the elements of life itself, as well as the ability to look at this overview and to just think how fortunate we are that even the smartest people who ever lived before right about now could not know what the kids inside of all of us, and especially those who will be around till the end of this century and beyond. This is what excites me, what drives me, what has, I think, many of us gathered here, wanting to do everything possible to be a part of that movement that will shift this trajectory that looks like a lot of trouble ahead for us. We have the power to change in the right direction. I mean, reason for hope, there it is. I'm looking at it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Goodall and Dr. Earle. And you won't believe these two ladies are, going around the world non-stop and have tireless, promoting, advocating the conservation of the world, the planet. And they have so many events that we won't be able to have them for too long more. And now we have to close the event. And I want to, wrap it up with, what you have said before, that Dr. Earle, that we still have a really good chance to make things better than they are. And but they won't get better unless, it's like Lorex say, unless we take the action and inspire others to do the same.
Somebody like you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. And Sean, you have words of wisdom from Dr. Jane?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to share with everyone a couple of quotes that you, Dr. Jane, had said, that the greatest danger to our future is apathy, that every individual matters, every individual has a role to play, every individual makes a difference, and that was from you. And another quote from you is that you once said, change happens by listening and by starting a dialogue with the people who are doing something. So I can't speak, well, I think I speak for everybody that it's been so amazing to have both of you here with us today to share. And I'm hoping that we can take your experience, your wisdom, and more than that, your love for that natural world, and really turn it into action the moment we step out of this room. So I want to thank
At this note, please
all of
join
you,
us
yes,
to
yeah.
thank the two ladies for making history in Singapore.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Jane, Dr. Earle, Miss Anne, and Dr. Lam, for this enlightening and inspiring conversation. I would like to invite you guys to please remain on stage and do come forward a little bit as the chairs and tables are being taken away. Do be careful. So we're gonna prepare for the next segment. So please remain on stage, everyone. Please. Sorry about that. Okay, sorry, Dr. Jane. Okay, so right now we're going to be moving on to our next segment. We're going to be giving our guests some token of appreciations. So may I please invite DPM Mr. Heng Swee Kiat, our special guest, to the stage to present the tokens of appreciation to Dr. Jane and Dr. Earle. I would also like to invite CDL's Group General Manager, Mr. Chia Nyang Hong, up here to join us on stage. So DPM Heng Swee Kiat is now giving the token of appreciations to our special guests, Dr. Jane and Dr. Earle. And we would like to now take a photo. So shall we all take a photo together? We can come towards the center. Maybe we can listen to where the photographers need us to be. I think tighter here, over here. Is this okay? All right. 3, 2, 1. Everyone, smile. Okay, we're going to be taking another photo right now. I would like to invite Dr. Andy Ang, Mr. Michael Au, as well as the storytellers up on stage, along with Inch Chua, for another group photo. You guys can stand in the center. Yes. Because you're tiny enough. And then we have, all right, all our very special guests are here. Okay, so everyone can smile. Okay, great. Now we would like to take a photo with all of you guys. So stay in your seats because we're going to turn around. We're going to get one of our photographers to come up on stage and we're going to take a picture with all of you who are in the audience. So we're going to take a really big group photo right now. So everyone get ready to smile. Okay, so everybody, if you're seated down or if you're not seated down, you can stay, you can get seated right now. And we have our photographers up on a chair. So, on the count of 3, everyone, I need you to give me your biggest smiles, okay? 1, 2, 3, smile. Smile. All right, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Oh, we need one more for a video, everybody. Okay. I'm gonna, on the count of 3, everyone, we're gonna shout hope and harmony, okay? So we're gonna do a video right now. On the count of 3, everybody, you have to join me, okay? Everyone up on stage and everyone off stage. Okay, are we ready? Okay, we're gonna get the camera ready. On the count of 1, hope and harmony, okay? 1, 2, 3. Hope and harmony. All right, give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you so much. Okay. Everyone get seated and get ready for the next segment of the program. We're gonna move towards this next segment. It's going to be a very fun one. I saw her doing a sound check just now. It was so exciting. It was super cool. Okay, she's going to do something that I promise you is very, very impressive. Even I was wondering how she did that. Okay, she's going to do something on the spot. So we're gonna let our guests move off the stage right now before I introduce our singer-songwriter for the day. So, in this next segment, we have Inch Chua, who's a Singaporean singer-songwriter and musician who is passionate about environmental conservation. So, as we all know, from the panelists just now, we learned such amazing insights and we learned such valuable things. So, I really believe that this is going to be something that will be extra inspiring for us because it's not just stuff that we learned, that we talked about today. It's going to be a song presentation that hopefully sums up everything that has transpired today, all right? So let's all put our hands to welcome Inch Chua. She's prepared a very special performance for us right now. So Inch, the stage is yours.
Hi, everyone. I'm just still absorbing all of that information because it was so overwhelmingly inspiring today. Thank you so much for being here today. And I'm a musician and singer-songwriter because I believe in the power of songwriting. Just it's another kind of storytelling that's really important. And why? It's because music and culture to me, I'm in the business of self-awareness, which is probably a very important ingredient in the future. I believe in action, but action with intent and self-awareness. So today, what we're going to do is remember this moment. Look left, look right. Embrace that you're in today with 2 legends. And we're going to write a song together on the spot. I have no idea what I'm going to do. I have no idea what you're going to do. We're just going to do something together. So I would need maybe 5 words, and if I could so kindly harvest some words from some of our distinguished guests to try to write a song together. So maybe, DPM Heng, could I get a word from you that you would feel inspired today by?
Nature.
Nature. Okay, we have nature. Dr. Earle? Ocean. Ocean from Dr. Earle. Okay. Dr. Goodall, would you like to give me a word?
I would say awe.
Awe. Awesome. Awe. We have awe, ocean, nature, and maybe I could get something from our guest of honor, Prince, today.
How about collaboration?
Collaboration. Okay, we'll make that happen. And last but not least, Mr. Chia, could I get a word from you?
Action.
Action. Okay, so, all right, I have my work cut out for me. Do we want a fast song or a slow song? Maybe the audience can decide. Fast song, okay, all right. All right, let's do this. Unless we do something more, we won't be left for things to adore. We need action, we need action, we need action. Unless we've got to do things more, there's nothing nothing left for us to be in awe. We need action. We need action. We need action. Collaboration is what we need. Imagination is what we gotta give. I won't get any satisfaction unless we have action. Action. Oh, action. My heart's like the ocean. It's got emotions. My heart's like an ocean. It's got all the emotions, so I need to color it. 'Cause we need this world here. Like what the lyric says. We need action. We need action. We need action. For hope and harmony. Thank you very much. I think I forgot the word nature, but it's in there as well. So. But anyway, thank you very much. That's a song that I think we've written on the spot, and thank you for your wonderful words. I grew up listening to both you inspiring women to continue what I do as well as the work that I do in advocacy. And I think many other young people here would not have I know hope sometimes can feel unfashionable, but I think today I feel very inspired, and let's bring it back in fashion, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Inch. No, stay on stage for a while. I'm going to chat with you a little bit. Maybe you can pass your guitar over to them. You can start, packing her stuff. Don't worry. So he was like, should I come on stage? So, yeah, can you share with us a little bit more about how you even became passionate about, conservation and your story?
So my aunt actually was the first activist I knew, and she was part of the Roots and Shoots program. And I grew up as one of those little tiny kids when I think as early as 1995 was the year that I discovered what CFC in the air was. And
yes, I remember learning that as a kid as well.
I think I was like 6 or something. Now you guys know my age. But and it was kind of like a big ask for me, because I love like having McDonald's as a kid. And at the time, they were giving out these styrofoam boxes. The chicken nuggets came out in styrofoam boxes. And my aunt basically was the first person that taught me what protesting means, which is not to eat the chicken McNuggets because they came in styrofoam boxes because they gave out CFC carbon. And for the first time in my life, I think as a young person, and this is a challenge when you talk to someone new as well. You're basically telling them to deny something they want and love for something invisible they can't see and they don't understand for the greater good of the future. It's a big ask when you put it in perspective. But to me, it's really about I immediately learned, okay, I need to really understand what greater good is and learn what's best for me.
All right. That was great. Thank you so much, everyone. A round of applause to Inch Chua. I love that she wrote that song on the spot. I told you guys it was impressive, She did it during sound check. It was a totally different song because we all gave her different words. And right now, may I please invite Dr. Andy Ang, Jane Goodall Institute Singapore's president, on stage to give her closing remarks, please. Everyone, give her a round of applause. Thank you.
Hi. For those of you who are walking out right now, I only have 2 minutes, so if you can maybe please stay and listen to my 2 minutes, I would really appreciate it. Good afternoon, DPM Heng, Dr. Jane, Dr. Sylvia, and all distinguished guests. Firstly, I would like to say thank you very much to CDL for giving us this platform to actually listen to Dr. Jane and Dr. Sylvia, to share their knowledge and giving us this wonderful inspiration. And I also want to thank Dr. Jane and Dr. Sylvia for being here to really talk to us, talk to our heart, to make our head work and to connect the head and the heart. I also want to thank Jane Goodall Institute Singapore and also Ocean Geographic's teams to actually put all this, this event together, working really hard to make sure that their schedule actually works so that we can be here today. Also thanking moderators Esther and Dr. Sean for giving us a really, really nice panel. And of course, Inch and also our children who gave the wonderful storytelling session. Dr. Jane has a lot of quotes, and Dr. Sean shared a few, which really touched my heart. But one that really resonates with me is that only if we know would we care, and only if we care would we act, and only if we act would all be safe. So, actually, when you're walking out of the room today, if I can encourage you or urge you to do one thing, is to look up one species, whether is it a plant or a species of fungi or animal, to really read about it, to know all about this species, the threats that they are facing in Singapore, and also what you can do to help save them. And once you have the idea, you can approach JGIS Roots and Shoots program to do a project with us, or reach out to OGS, the Ocean Geographic Society, to do a project with them. Individual action counts, and collectively we can make a huge difference. So thank you very much for your time, and I hope you can spend some time to learn more about the species in Singapore and how you can save them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Ang, and a big thank you to everyone who came today and made this event possible.